Hi guys, welcome to a new lesson. Today we're going to talk about independence working with the pattern, with a fit pattern of 4, and we're going to play all the subdivisions. If you saw the other videos about independence, I call them the alphabet, the alphabet subdivision, because basically we're going to work on every 16 notes. We're going to accent every 16 notes on top of whatever we're playing with our feet, and we're going to learn how to hear all these subdivisions on top of, in this case, a pattern in 4. So first of all, let's learn the pattern itself. I'm going to show you 4 different types of pattern that we can use, but of course then you can use and create your own pattern and play on top of this whatever you feel. You can groove it, you can improvise and do whatever you want, and take this exercise to somewhere else depending on what you need this for. The reason why we do these exercises is because it's good to raise the bar of what you're able to do, and we can hear better all the subdivisions, in this case based on a 4/4 pattern. In other videos we did for singles, doubles, triplet notes, triplet fit bass drum pattern, and we'll go on doing other stuff. Once we can hear what's going on, and we can control that, then we will have the ability of just improvise and play all these subdivisions, all these cycles that are we're going to create, playing like 5s and 4 and 7s and 4, and based on this we can expand our drumming basically. Okay, so the first pattern, it's going to be I'm going to play 1 stroke with my right leg and 3 strokes with my left foot, so in this way. Okay, so it's a very easy pattern, and it's basically, we will count 1, 2, 3, 4. The 1 is always going to be played by 1 leg motion from our right foot. So first of all, we have to, of course, if we play slowly, we will use only leg motion, the leg motion techniques. So as I showed you just right now, it's just going to be a leg motion for every stroke that we're going to play. Of course, speeding this up, we will have to introduce and use different techniques if we want to reach certain speeds. So of course, for the 1 stroke with my right foot, it's always going to stay a leg motion, because it's going to be easier. Even if we're going to speed this pattern up a lot, it's still the space between the right notes are going to be so wide that we'll just need the leg motion to execute this exercise. Instead, on our left foot, we can either think of using a heel up or a swivel technique, or you can also use a down, heel down, or a heel toe, whatever you prefer. I'm going to use the swivel technique when I'll speed up with my left foot, and then we're going to change this and play left hand lead. The pattern is going to be played left hand lead, and I'm going to use just heel up with my right foot, so that you have different examples of the exercise and the techniques that you can use. Okay, so let's see the technique, how we would apply the techniques when we speed this pattern up. So let's see the swivel first. So as you can see, it's not a complete swivel. It's like if the first 2 strokes are a swivel kind of injection, and then the 3rd stroke, it's just a heel up motion. And that's because it's just more comfortable and there's less motion involved. But also, it's, for me, in my opinion, is better to just use heel up, because I can speed. Having this lateral injection at first allows me to be a little bit faster, and I don't know, I just feel it's more comfortable. So it's a good way of executing this exercise. Of course, we can then see the heel up, for example, how it would work. It's still a good way of executing this pattern, but the swivel allows me to have a little bit more of agility while I execute this stop and start motion very quickly. Because of course, it's something that has to keep, having a first injection stroke and then a stop and then controlling the spaces between the notes and everything. So having this lateral motion is a little bit easier than doing all vertical, which gives you a little bit more tensions in the leg. But then you can use the heel toe or whatever, other technique that works for you. But it's important that you you understand what technique you want to apply before even, speeding this up, because if not, if you will have a technical issue or an issue based on your technique, then it's going to be a big, a big thing to work on. So maybe you want to work on technique first, and then once you have this and you can play this pattern freely, you can then start playing and applying the subdivisions on top of this. So now I will demonstrate the first exercise, playing this pattern leading with the right foot. I will start to play this very slowly, using only leg motions, and we can start to hear and learn how everything sounds. Okay, so if we're having hard times playing this, a good way to make it easier is to simplify whatever we're doing and go to the basics of what's happening and learn to hear that and then add other notes. So for example, if I only focus on and this pattern, is good to start with this pattern because it allows you to kind of keep the one always with the right foot, and so you can kind of have that one going and play all the accents on top of this. So for example, if I want to play the first four 16 notes accents, playing only the accents and whatever my right foot is doing, I will hear very well what's happening, and then I can add notes to that so that I will have the control of what's happening and I can make it harder after. Okay, so I'll show you, I'll give you an example so it's easier to understand. Okay, so starting from the basic thing, so only playing my right foot and the accents that I would play, and it kind of simplifies everything, and then I'll add all the other notes on top of this, so that it goes from like easy to making it harder and harder, adding stuff, because of course the more things we're playing, the more information our brain has to process, and the harder the exercise becomes. Okay, let's see now, speeding this up, first with the leading with the right foot, and then repeating everything leading with the left foot, how it would sound. Okay, so this kind of pattern, as I was saying before, it's pretty easy, or it's a good starting point, because our right foot, when we lead with the right, or left foot when we lead with the left foot, really determines the one of every bar, and we can focus on that to keep everything going. If we keep that as a reference, then it'll be easier for us to play everything on top of that. And in fact, even when we play harder stuff on top of this, what you should keep hearing and in mind of whatever it's happening is the right foot, and whatever you're doing on top of that, related to the right foot, or if you're leading with the right foot, so that you really have that good reference, and you can play everything on top of that. So something like this. Okay, and then everything else, that you're going to add with your left foot, or whatever it is with your hands, it all should go as a reference to the right foot. Okay, so that everything, you have the control of everything, like not only of the accents based on one thing, but of the whole thing that's happening. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's important that you keep that in mind, because then you have to always see the bigger picture of whatever it's happening, and you have to know, if you have 12 bars of solo and you want to improvise on this kind of things, you have to know when the 12th bar ends. So it's good to have this, and it's a good pattern to start. But what if we change the pattern, and for example we play paradiddles with our kicks, so we won't have such a strong reference anymore, but it's going to be a little bit more, not as, we won't have the one always played only with our right foot, but it's going to be as the paradiddle, so right left right right left right left left. It's going to become more complex, and there are more variations. Plus we will start once with our right foot and once with our left foot, and so that will make the cycles even bigger, because for example we will hear when we play the 5 that once it starts on the right foot, and then the second times that once the first cycle ends, the second cycle will start on our left foot, right accent on our left foot. So to go back on the one where the right and left foot play unison, it's going to be 2 cycles. So it's going to be 2 bars of 4 measures. So we will have to think of a longer process, and that will make it even harder. Also here we want to understand and figure out first the technique that we want to use. So the best techniques that I recommend and that I feel like make the job easier are leg motion, of course, for the single strokes, and then I use the slide technique for the double strokes. So it will be something like this. Okay, as we were saying before, you can use different techniques. You can use heel toe, toe heel, whatever it's better for you, heel down. Whatever it's comfortable and makes it easier for you to play. I like the slide technique for the double strokes because it's very loud. It has 2 loud strokes, so that's why I chose this. But whatever you guys are comfortable playing is fine. We can now try, once we figure out the technique, we can try to speed this up, and let's see what happens. Okay, so also here things are going to start to be a little bit harder, but as I was same process as before. If we want to simplify all this process, we can think of the first. You can think this actually in 2 ways, and in both ways it kind of like I'm able to play it and to hear and control everything. So one is just playing the one with our right or left foot. So for example, if I would have to play a cycle, it would be and so on. And then of course adding all the other notes that we're going to play. Or another good way, it could be playing the leg motions and thinking of the leg motions. So it's going to be okay, so both ways are pretty good because we're still working on the bigger muscles. So whatever the bigger muscles are doing, it's always easier to think about that. But of course, keeping only the one of what we're playing, it's always the best reference, because everybody is eventually going to play on the one, and that's where you want to, you don't want to count the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 when you're playing on the one, or the one is what's supposed to be the opening and closing number of the cycles. So always keeping the one is good. Then we can work on reversing the paradiddle and playing the paradiddle starting from different positions with our feet, so that we can make this even more difficult. And I'll give an example of the other two paradiddles that we can play with our feet without accents, and we can see how this sounds. Okay, perfect. So it gets always a little bit more complicated. For the paradiddle that starts with the double strokes, we will have to get used to that. You will have to think of the one. It's going to be the one of the double stroke. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if you're having hard times, you can break it down, figure out if it's the technique that's giving any issues or whatever you're hearing. Get rid of information, get rid of notes that you're playing literally. So go to the basics, learn, to hear and control wherever the accents fall based on what we're doing with our feet. And let's build references on the feet patterns that we're playing, so that we have one thing that kind of becomes the structure and becomes the reference for everything else to play on top of that, which is, as I was saying, usually the best thing is always the one, whatever the one is doing. or whatever the one note is what we're playing. So even if it's a double stroke, it has to be the one of the double stroke in that case. Okay, so have fun, and I'll see you next time with another lesson.